Looks like we are.
Yeah, we're live. Cool. Welcome, everybody, to another fun-filled adventure of Johnny and the Greg. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
If you happen to be here and you happen to like it, give us a thumbs up. That really helps us out, as well as subscribe. And, for those of you that like to listen to books or like to read books, Greg has a great offer for you.
Totally do. You can go to, so I got to mute that. If you go to audibletrial.com, you get 1 month free of Audible for free on us. So it is audibletrial.com/JATG. They have thousands upon thousands of audiobooks to choose from, both fiction
And they keep coming.
nonfiction.
They keep coming.
Every week. Yeah. When books get released, they get new audiobooks as well. Sometimes it's even day and date. It used to be like, if you wanted a book, the audiobook would come out like maybe even 6 months later. Not the case anymore. They're coming out at the same time. The other thing they have on there is a lot of learning material and podcasts. You can find us there if you want to use Audible to listen to us, as well as all the rest of your audiobook needs. You can find us there. So again, it is 1 month free on us. Go to audibletrial.com/JATG.
Boom. And so we'll just jump right into it. My Bears have gotten embarrassed today. I knew that was going to happen.
My goodness.
I knew that was going to happen. They were just going into a buzzsaw today, and I knew that.
And I really hope that your front office takes this as a sign. You've got a pretty good, although young quarterback who couldn't even throw the ball because the offensive line is just an open gate. It's if you want to tag our quarterback here, just go ahead. Yeah,
our only shot of winning games is to never get to a third down, and that doesn't happen likely in the NFL.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah. So as far as them knowing our front office getting a clue, they will not. They've had 4 years to build it. They haven't built it. So why should they start now? And that is why. And, there's all these people out there that say, I am never here to jump on the bandwagon or call for somebody else's job. I'm calling for their jobs. I want Nagy and I want Pace gone. You're going to ruin this quarterback if it doesn't happen. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Packers won. Your Browns won, I think Thursday.
Yeah, Browns won Thursday night.
Yeah.
And again, Packers won. So chink, drink responsibly with the buddy.
I will not be drinking today. I'm in protest.
You kind of should be. I mean,
yeah, it was a bad showing. Anyway, it's what I expected. So moving forward, we're going to kind of stay on football as a small little subject because it has to do with our big topic today, which I think it's going to be a huge topic. I just have no idea where this is going to go, but it can go in a bunch of different ways. So I'm going to read this to you. I got this from ESPN. This happened last Monday, and I know we're kind of late to the party, but it says here that Washington State fired football coach Nick Rolovich and 4 of his assistants on Monday after they refused to comply with the mandate that all state employees be vaccinated against COVID-19. I'll read this and then we can go. Washington Governor Jay Inslee had a set of a deadline of Monday for thousands of state employees, including the Cougars coaches, to be vaccinated against the coronavirus or risk losing their jobs. And they lost their jobs. The coach did not specify as to why he wouldn't get it. So he didn't sit there and say he had religious reasons or anything of that nature. But the reason I bring this up to you, Greg, is it kind of piggybacks off of a podcast that you and I did when we did Topic Thunder, was to vaccinate or not to vaccinate. And we were talking about kids at that time. It hasn't seemed like it's really changed much.
Yeah. And you know what? I did read that story when it came out earlier in the week. And he did initially say religious issues, or like, I don't want to get it from my religious beliefs. And then I think he was pressed on it. And they're like, okay, well, what religion are you?
Yeah.
And like he didn't produce or whatever it was. Because I know a lot of people are checking that box just because they don't want to get it. And
I was going to say, do you feel that when he, and I don't know. I know that he went that route and it was denied.
Yep.
Like they said no, but do you feel that a lot of people are like, do you, let's just talk about him. Do you think he thought that if he just would leave him alone and they wouldn't stress it? Because there's this whole like, hey man, that's your religion. Like I'm not
Right.
gonna,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's probably
And
what.
then when he
Because
got pressed, he was like, oh,
if it is a religious conviction, you have no problem being vocal about it. About that is my religious conviction because I belong to this religion or
do
this
you know what
denomination.
religions don't want you
I know,
being?
like I believe Christian Scientists, they don't believe, or certain sections of Christian Scientists, and I'm getting this straight from like a lot of media,
Okay.
where it is your child is sick, there is a surgery we can do, and they will live, and they say no, it's the power of God that will heal them, and so we're going to just pray over our child and hope that God heals them. I believe a one couple was actually found guilty of child abuse by way of negligence because their child was sick, and then I believe ended up passing away.
Oh,
Where there could
that's
have been and it was like an appendicitis maybe or something, that they're like, no, really, surgery is needed, or else your child will die because if appendix bursts, it
yeah.
poisons your insides and you die. And they said, nope, not going to do it. And sure enough, the child died. And because they were informed, it was
Yeah.
an informed decision that they said no. The state brought charges against them. So,
Hmm.
so there are,
That's a discussion in itself.
it is, yeah, it
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
But there are, certain religions that say no inoculations or anything like that. The only one I can think of is Christian Scientist, but there's probably more. I'll do a quick Google search while we talk about it.
Yeah. You text me because I sent this to you in the middle of the week saying that, hey man, maybe we should talk about this. And you asked me where I stood. It was a great question because, to be honest, I feel like I stand on a fence. Like, I understand the importance of a community and I understand the importance of an individual decision. And I totally get where both are coming from. To me, it just I think it comes down to the line of how strong is your stance when you have to feed your family.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't, and I hope I don't ever have to be in this predicament. So I mean, I don't really know which side I'm on. I get both. I really understand both sides of this. And I think you're just in this no-win situation. I really do. Where do you stand on this? You didn't really tell me what you felt.
So by law, there have been inoculations that have been required, like for kids just to go to school for decades, like
polio,
like
right?
polio.
That was a big deal back then.
Yep. The MMR, measles, mumps, and rubella shot. That for decades, those have been required because when those diseases were rampant, it was your child could die. Or with polio, your child wakes up and can no longer walk.
Yeah,
they're still alive. Like they'll survive polio, but then you can't walk. And it's like, no. And I think almost there was like that physical factor in there that people are like, no, I'm going to get my kids taken care of.
Yeah. I think that also, I'm just speaking of the polio one. I think that comes back in the time where kind of everybody believed their government. They believed that their government wasn't
in
there
a way
to harm them.
I mean, the polio piece, there were still kids in the 50s getting 50s, 60s, maybe a little bit less than 70s that were getting polio. Because it was like really rampant in like the turn of the century, like through in the 20s and whatnot. So it was an honest to God fear that parents had, and parents haven't had that fear for a long time.
No, you're right.
I think it also because a polio really attacked children. It could attack adults, but the idea of it happening to your kid was scary enough that you went through with the vaccination.
Yeah.
This is, what they're saying is most kids, if they get it, can fight it off. So that's why people are like, well, if I get it, I'll just fight it off. But there's still like, I don't know, like 160,000 people dying a day. Is that right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I know someone today who had to go to the hospital because their loved one passed away or is like is on their deathbed literally
I know.
today.
Yeah. I mean,
Tonight.
I know people that have
Yeah.
passed away. Fortunately, it's been no one really close to me, knock on wood. Um, but we were just before we got on, Krista said our old neighbor, like when our first house, like, oh, he passed away. And I'm like, does it say? And he was older. I
Yeah.
bet he was in his 70s. And so you kind of wonder. And I knew a little bit about, what
Where he
side
stood
of the
health
fence.
wise.
Well, more
Oh,
like where he stood politically.
okay.
And so it wouldn't surprise me
If he didn't.
because he would be on of a political view that, and this isn't a political issue. I'm not trying to make it a political
Right.
issue because I don't believe it is.
I think a lot of people are trying to turn it into that.
It's a public health issue.
Yeah.
And that's the, I think the bigger thing is it's become so politicized
Mm-hmm.
and to the point where you've got like the Daily Show at these rallies where people are like, there's no such thing. No such, like they believe that COVID is completely made up and that all these people are dying from something else. I don't know. But they believe the vaccination is fake. That I think, and it's almost a joke because it's, the Daily Show, but they're putting creepy crawlies in there and they're going to keep track of you. And I'm like, buddy, okay.
Well, that's really funny. Okay. So let's just play with that little idea that they're putting things in you that can keep track of you. I want everybody to wake up right now. Do you know how easy it is to track you now with your phone? It is so easy to track you with your phone right now. All the apps you have on, all the watches you carry in your car. People know where you are 24 hours a day. If they really wanted to get after you, they could figure it out. Okay.
And unless you're using 100% cash, 100% of the time, if you're using your card, debit card, credit card, anywhere, that purchase is tagged. They know where you're at.
Yeah.
And that's been since like the 80s.
Yes. It's been very easy for a very long time to find you. Like if you watch Dateline, most of the people get in trouble because their cell phone gets dinged and they're in some park, they're in some like wooded area where they weren't supposed to be. So guys, that whole idea that, oh my God, they're going to track you. If you have Facebook, if you have Instagram, if you have a phone that is not attached to, I don't know, like the wall, you're being tracked.
Well, I think it's still attached to the wall. I mean,
if you have Alexa, you're being listened to. It's happening.
In 1998, so before social media,
because
1998 was before social media,
right?
Will Smith made a movie called Enemy of the State. With him and Gene Hackman, and they are tracking Will Smith everywhere. Now that was using 1998 technology.
Yep, that's true.
Like they can, whoever they is, they want to know where you're at and what you're doing. They're going to find out. The best way to make them not care about you is don't be a douche. So.
But anyway, going back to you didn't actually tell us where you stand.
Oh, I've got the stab, I've got the poke. So I'm
for that, people, if you don't understand his lingo, that means he got the shot.
I've yep, I got it. My kids have it. My wife hasn't gotten it yet, purely because she had to go through another checkup where they said she had to get a mammogram and they're like, it may offer some kind of false positive. And so she said, okay, I'll wait. But now that that's done, we're just, where's a weekend where we don't have anything coming up that she can get it on a Friday. And if she has an adverse reaction, she can lay low for a couple of days.
Okay.
In terms of this Washington coach. So he worked for Washington State University. So he is considered a state employee.
Yep.
And so it doesn't matter if you're working as the head football coach or if you're the janitor at the smallest college in the dorms. I mean, they're on the same level compared to state employees. I mean, that's it. And so when that mandate came down, and honestly, I look at it the same as like any private business. If they want to say, you know what, we want our employees to have the inoculation if you're working here, both for the protection of our customers and for your protection. And that's the rule. That's their standard. Okay, that's it. So you're right. If it's between feeding my family and getting the shot, I'm gonna get the shot.
Yeah. My wife and I are fully vaccinated as well. we talked about this before on the podcast that, and look, man, this may sound stupid, but I just literally woke up one day, because I was one of the first that says, I am never getting that. It's not been tested. I
Mhm.
don't. And I think that's the biggest fear, is that it's so new
Right.
and nobody's really getting any creditable information. And even if they get the credible information,
They don't believe it.
they don't believe it. And this,
Yeah.
I think I've never remembered a time, and I haven't lived that long, but throughout history, I never remember a time where people were so distrusting of information out there, even if it was correct. And then they trust information that's maybe not necessarily
Right.
correct. And they don't follow the three things that you always end the show
They're
with,
not, yeah, they're not going for their sources. They're not checking where it's
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
from.
And they're
They're
not
going
really
by headlines.
right.
So, I mean, when it came time, like when this came out and, it became available to the general public, the place where I work is in Health and Human Services.
Okay.
Now, I'm not frontline staff, so
Yes.
I wasn't on the top of the list. I was much lower on the list.
Mhm.
But they were sending us information from the CDC, from the World Health Organization. I'd read it and I go, yeah, that's the same as what I'm seeing on the news and things like that.
Right.
And then when I had to go to my doctor for like just an annual thing, and my nurse, who's a real straight shooter, I sat down with her, and this was like when it was like all nurses need to get it. Like it was just and I sat down, I'm like, so did you guys have to get the shot already? She's like, we had a meeting yesterday where our doctor, and this is a private practice kind of deal. The doctor said, okay, it's available. As soon as it comes in, everybody on our staff needs to get it. She went, what if I don't want to get it? He goes, well, then you're not going to work here. And it became kind of a contentious thing. Now they're both kind of fiery. So, she said she went home that night and was like kind of fretting about it, this altercation she had with her boss, essentially. And so she dialed up a pharmacy that actually I'm also acquainted with, the pharmacist there. And she's like, so tell me what this is. Like, what do you think about this? As a professional pharmacist whose job it is to deal drugs, what are you thinking about this? He goes, okay. He goes, the idea that it is an untested vaccination, he's like, actually isn't true, because they're using the SARS vaccination as the base. That's where they're building it off of, and then they're adding in the antibodies for COVID-19. And that's where I'm like, so they're not using a live sample? She's like, no, it's not a live sample. It's not even a dead sample. It's actually the antibodies in. And I was like, okay. I said, so what about this testing stuff? She goes, if you really want to see the testing results, go back to SARS vaccine, which again hasn't been around a long, long time, but it's been around for about 5 or 7 years. So
Okay.
And they said the only study that they don't have is like the 30-year study on the fertility rates for men and women.
Yeah.
And they said, so if your kids get it, like we're not going to really know that 30-year study for like another 28 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so and at the time I'm like, it's either risk my kids getting it and dying and not having grandkids, or having my kids getting the vaccination, surviving, and not having any grandkids. Well, obviously I want my kids to live, but no matter what. So I went that route. And because there's no evidence that it will affect it. There's no evidence that it won't affect it. They're saying right now it shouldn't, but who knows? So the idea, like when it was, of course, they're like, it changes your DNA. I'm like, nothing can do that. Well, the only thing I know that can do
radiation,
that is
right?
A bone marrow transplant.
Okay.
A bone marrow transplant can change your DNA. That's not what this is.
Like superhero stuff?
No, not really. But I had a friend of mine who unfortunately passed of
bone marrow poisoning or something? Or
no, it was lymphoma. He was waiting for a bone marrow transplant, and they could never kill off the cancer enough to give him, because you need to be completely cancer free.
Yeah.
So like they kill it for like 2 weeks. They go in there and do the transplant, and so then his body can start to change, but he could never keep a 2-week no cancer count.
Yeah.
And unfortunately he passed away. little over a year ago. But when I talked to him about it, he had said my blood type's going to change. Like they're literally changing my blood. Like I'm going to get new DNA coding through this bone marrow transplant. I'm like,
Oh,
that's wild, man. He goes, yeah, it's pretty wild.
that is pretty wild. Yeah. Excuse me. The bubbles from my drink. But yeah, I, I have friends now and my company's doing the same, where I had to go online and kind of show them proof
Yep.
that I've been vaccinated. Now, what I do is I go out in the field every day. So I get why they would need someone like me to be vaccinated, again, I go back to the greater good, helping the greater good of the community. And then you remember that long speech that they have it on like Captain America poster, and it's something that he always talked about, where like, if you believe you're in the right and they tell you to move, it is your God-given, or it's your American right to plant your feet at the ground and say, no, you move.
Yep.
And I always remember that quote, because I'm like, that's a lot of people are taking this. But the question I think that they need to ask themselves is, why are they really taking this?
Yeah.
Why are they really taking this stance? Is it because they're scared, or they got the wrong information, or they were hanging out with, their local buddy down in his garage, and they got the bravado going, and they start shooting off facts that no one's fact checking and no one's saying anything. They're just there to agree, and that got them all ready to stand ground. And now they don't want to look like they don't want to look like a turncoat in front of their buddy.
There is a very, very American attitude of don't tell me what to do. And I think that's a large part of this. And a lot of people feel,
I think it's a great point.
You can't tell me what to do. I'm an American. I have rights. This isn't in Bill of Rights. Yes, you have a right to free speech. Yes, you have a right to own a gun. Yeah, you're protected from unlawful search and seizure. I mean, there's what do you say?
Isn't there a law that says like, if it's for the greater good, you have to do it? Isn't there a law like that?
I don't know about that.
Like if it was for for a situation like this, where if you're the one person that's kind of keeping or putting everybody else in danger, that makes you like, you have to do it, so you don't do that. I remember hearing something like that when this was starting to become a big deal, in terms of people wearing masks versus people not wearing masks.
Right. When getting into a law versus a mandate is
different stuff.
Oh,
well, while you look this up, for anybody out there that is still listening to us, or you're watching us live, let us know in the comments below. Let us know what are your thoughts? Where do you stand? And look, Greg and I aren't here to let you know that you're wrong. We're not into that game. I just want to hear what does people think about this, because this is a scary thing, and I understand both sides. And the only thing I would say is just make sure you're getting the right information before you make a decision. That's all I'm going to say when it comes to whatever choice you're going to make. So what do you got, Greg? Anything?
Well, it's definitely not in. I mean, the Bill of Rights is the first 10. It's not in there. But there is the last section of the Bill of Rights that says anything that's not covered in the Bill of Rights falls in the power of the state. So that is partially when it comes down to like a state issue. So unless it's in like the full like constitutional part.
Yeah.
So
when it comes to the
27 constitutional rights. So keep going.
When it comes back to going to this football coach that got fired, I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. I think there's going to be a lot of people. In fact, I know I have a family member whose business has a mandate by like November or something. Like if you don't have it by November or something, you're gone. And they're already making plans to kind of put those packages together, that if they have to take that hard stand and say you're fired, or we're gonna have to let you go, they're preparing themselves to do it. So it's a scary time, because I don't know if I could ever come home to my family and sit there and say, like, I got fired because I didn't get a shot. So Christmas is going to be really tough this year, guys.
Well, but at the same time,
Or
I know healthcare workers, like nurses,
yeah,
that
that are
were
doing
like
this.
they're flat out saying, "Nope, I'm going to walk out. If they make me do it, I'm done. I won't work here." And they're saying because, I mean, and these are again, you've got two nurses, both hold the same state licensure, meaning they both receive the same level of education, and you got one saying, "I did the research, I think it's fine," and you got one saying, "I did the research, and there's no way in hell."
Yeah, see,
And you're like,
that's
"What? How
yeah, that's
does that
that's
work?"
that's tricky. Yeah, how does that work? I'd
And
love to
if
know.
and I know nurses that make, some of them, really good money, and
Yeah,
they are the breadwinner. And so if you're saying, you're coming home and saying, "Sorry, kids, you know, it's hard times for a while and we're not going to have benefits for a while, so don't get sick," and everything else. And I don't know
well,
about that, man.
well, that's another
Like,
thing. Think about that. Let's say,
yeah, you lose your health insurance if you
yeah, let's
quit.
say, yeah, and then all of a sudden you get COVID and you need it.
Yeah, you
Like
don't.
that's a really rough choice. So you
Uh-huh.
better make sure you're ready to hunker down for this because it
Yeah.
could be a long time.
Yep. Hopefully
But
you
I
hunt.
think I think you're right, Greg. I think it does go back to the whole. You ain't gonna tell me to get a shot.
Yeah. I think that is a lot of it, is
Yeah,
just the, "Nope, I'm an American. You can't tell me what to do."
yeah.
Because, like,
Again,
from what I understand, other countries are not having this problem.
you know what? That's very funny. I was explaining this to my wife, and she's like, "You should get somebody on from Canada, see if they're going through the same thing." She goes, "Because from what I understand, they're not."
Yeah.
You know,
Not, I was going to say Canadian. Nope. Not Canada.
yeah, but you're right. All
The
over,
Netherlands. No, like Northern Europeans, they're fine.
yeah,
Not happening to them.
yeah. Yeah, you're right. And it's just, what does it say about us, man?
I think I did read like Australia and New Zealand, like they're having some issues with
I
it.
heard, yeah, Australia's not a
They're
good
not
place right
fans.
now. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. A lot of crazy stuff going on there, from what I understand. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just thought this was an interesting thing because, like I said, man, I feel this is only the tip of the iceberg. I think you're going to hear about a lot of people um losing their jobs for this. And I guess
Mhm.
it's, how long are you willing to go hungry, and how long are you willing to live in your house without the lights on?
Yeah.
I mean, because that stuff starts to become real. And I don't know, are they going to start, is there going to be some sort of new uh check that's given to these people? You know,
Well, I think it'll be, I mean, what we have in my place of business now, for staff that work with the people that we serve,
mhm.
if they're not vaccinated, as of right now, they get to keep their job. We're not firing them, but you, like, every day you come into work, we're
You
going to
got to
take your
get tested.
temperature. We're going to, I mean, I don't know if we're doing the rapid tests or anything like that before they can clock in, or,
Yeah.
um, but there's full precautions. Like, it's, you're masked up, you're gloved up, you got a face shield, and you're taking your temperature, like, I don't know, multiple times a day. I mean, I can't say for sure, but it is that level. And so they're saying, if you don't want to do that, go get the shot. I mean,
Yeah.
which they pay for. Like,
Yeah.
this isn't a cost to anybody.
You know, it was always weird with me, that whole thing, like taking your temperature. Like that was weird to me because I've heard, like, with COVID, you can be, you could have COVID and be, giving it to people and you feel fine. You don't know. And I would think that if somebody had a fever, they would be like, you know what, maybe I should just stay home for a couple of days. Like I would think they wouldn't go to work.
You'd think so, but I remember when I was teaching, I would rather, I mean, I don't know about a fever, but if I just
That's
like
what I mean.
felt bad, I would
Yeah.
rather go to work sick than have to call in a sub and deal with that.
I get that. I actually understand going to work sick, but
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever gone to work with a fever.
Yeah, maybe not. I'd have to,
So guys,
I
let
don't
us
know if
know out
I've
there.
done
Has
that.
anybody done that? Has anybody? I'm sure people have done that, but that's something that I would think would almost make you, I don't know, just second get, like, that's one of those things. Like if you wake up and your throat's a little sore, you're like, I slept wrong, or it was weird in my house temperature wise, or you kind of blow it off and work throughout the day or something like that.
Mhm.
Or if you feel a little achy, I'm talking about days before COVID. So now I'm not talking about now, because now it's sensitive. Now you don't know if you have it, and every sniffle has to be like secondly looked at.
Yeah.
It's so
One of my daughters, we got her a new pair of contacts that they corrected the astigmatism in a little bit
okay,
more. That made her nauseous
okay.
and it gave her a headache.
Oh, and they sent her
And
home.
so they sent her home. They said she's nauseous. They said nauseous and a headache are factors that we're going to send her home for 2 weeks unless you get a negative COVID test. I was like, okay. So then
Wow.
I'm immediately calling around. Where can we get it? I'm like, she's got new contacts. Like, this isn't a thing. They said, doesn't matter. As long as she's nauseous and has a headache, those are two factors. We're going to keep her at home.
Wow.
It's like, okay.
Wow.
So we had to scramble. But then, of course, she took a COVID test and she's negative. So I understand being cautious, but then there's also if these COVID tests, these rapid tests, these things you can do in 2 hours
Yeah.
are so easy to do, and it's literally spitting into a tube, why can't a school nurse do that?
Yeah.
Like, okay, we'll give you a COVID test right now. We'll see how you do.
Well, do you think it's budget?
It could be, but these things are supposedly being given out for free. So
I didn't know. So I mean, you're a little bit you're more experienced in that area in terms of see, the one thing that I don't have to deal with right now is my daughter. I don't have to deal with school. Like,
yeah,
I don't have to deal with that yet. And the only thing that raises an eyebrow, and I really don't know what I would do. But if it comes time for her to have to go to school and they're demanding she gets a COVID shot, I'm just not sure about that at the age of 4 or 5. I'm
I
not
don't know.
sure
I don't
about
think they're
that.
going that young
No,
yet.
I've heard they're
but-
going from 5 to 12. Like they're
the new ones?
designing a
Oh, they will, but then
Yeah.
you're looking at it the same way as all the other inoculations. It's just going to be included in that 5-year-old. Oh, you're going to preschool now? Okay, here are the shots you need to
You
get.
get shots for preschool?
Sure. Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I don't remember doing that because
Maybe
technically
not.
I almost remember every shot from memory when
It
I was
was
a kid.
so traumatizing.
Yeah, it was traumatizing.
It's no wonder you were scared to get a tattoo. Like when you start signing up for school, and it doesn't matter if it's parochial school or public school or private or whatever, they're going to say we need an immunization card, which is everything that she's gotten in her entire life. And if she missed something, they're going to say, we really need you to go back and get this one. Because we had my son, who the first shot he got, he got a fever from the shots. Like, his body just didn't handle. Well, they gave him 4 at a time. We're like, yeah, we need to put him on some kind of delayed schedule. Yeah. He got a fever of like 103, 104. We're like, no, we're not doing that again. And so when he went to kindergarten, they're like, well, he missed this one. We're like, okay, well, then we'll go back and get this one. And they also try to push ones that, and this might be where it falls. Like, they push the chickenpox vaccine and they push, so maybe it's going to fall into that. But at the same time, nobody dies of chickenpox in this country. Like, that doesn't happen.
Right.
So like, we said no to the chickenpox vaccine for a long time. Until they kind of got past the age, like, and we'd hear, oh, so-and-so has the chickenpox. We're like, great. Do you want to get the kids together? Because let's have our kids get the chickenpox. So
let's just get this over with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as soon as they got past that age where, like, high schoolers really don't get chickenpox anymore. We're like, yeah, okay, now you can take the vaccine and your immune system's a little bit bulked up to where you shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the only thing that my wife and I were discussing. Like, we weren't exactly sure. And we're both like, my wife used to be a nurse, so she's very logical when she puts things together. She never gets swept up in hype. She never does that. So I've always looked to her as some sort of a steady, like, am I getting too crazy about this? Am I getting nuts about this? Because I can get very easily wrapped up in the whole emotional wave of whatever hysteria is happening. And so she's always a great balancing act for me. And she's like, right now I don't want to do that. I don't, she's growing her brain's developing. I don't know.
Right.
Let me take
But
that back. I think my wife is a very logical person until it comes to her daughter. And then it's mom, which is understandable.
Yeah. I mean, your brain is going to grow to your 25 though.
Right. Yes.
That's development is kind of, so you can't hold off that whole time. So there's, again, I mean, if if someone were to hear this conversation that we're having, and if someone came up to me and said, I heard your podcast and that all your children are getting the shot and vaccinations and things like that, and I don't believe in that, and we're not going to be friends anymore, I'd be like, really? You're going to unfriend me in real life because of my belief about vaccinations? So I don't quite get where people are getting so wrapped up in this that they're refusing to.
Yeah, that is kind of
like they're
hey,
like they're
I heard you don't like chicken nuggets.
Yeah,
we're not friends anymore. It
is that level of
yes,
stupidity. Yes,
stupidity.
I would say that's
you're probably better off then.
Yeah, I would just be like,
see ya.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
Yeah.
and that would be it. But so again, the Washington coach, it was a job requirement, man. Your state made it a job requirement and you refused to do it.
Yeah.
So at the base of it, that's what it is. You made a decision. You had plenty of time, whatever beliefs or anything else that you had wrapped around that, doesn't matter. It was a job requirement.
Yeah. I think to end this conversation, I think it's easy when a guy who probably has made enough money to where he can sit back a little bit and just survey the scene before,
if you've made enough money that you can take a year off and not worry about it.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yes.
Most people can't.
Right. That. So I think he got a pretty good hefty bonus. I know he was the highest paid government employee.
Yeah, I bet.
I know he was in the state of Washington, but if you're Joe truck driver and you need that, they're telling you, or me, let's just talk about me. They said, I knew it was eventually coming down the pipe that, look, you're going into grocery stores every day. You're talking to people face to face every day. You're touching product every day. I knew this was coming to me. I had to do it. And like I said, look, there was no, I literally woke up and said, okay, you know what? I need to do it. So
for me, it was the conversation with the nurse where they said, look at the SARS vaccination. That's the data you're going to have to go off of.
I'm wrong. You're right. I'm surrounded by medical people in my family. Most of my family, especially my wife's side of the family, is very nurses and doctors and surgeons. And I have a doctor on my side, and I did pick their brains. So I think that's why Ursula and I came to a decision, because I know right away Ursula and I were very against it.
Yeah, me too.
We're not standing in line for that, but
until I got the right information from the right people,
correct,
and then verified that as true, I went, okay, this is the best we're gonna get. So
so all we're saying moving forward, and then we're gonna move on from this. We don't need to beat a dead horse anymore. Just make sure you guys just get the right source. Bar talk is not the right source. Okay. Talking to Joe and his cousin's neighbor, sister's brother, said that it was a government conspiracy. Oh, okay. Believe what you want to believe, but that's it. So, Greg.
Yeah.
Did you know that they actually let me ask you this question, Greg, because we're moving on, people. Are you cool with your height? Do you wish you were taller? Do you wish you were shorter? Are you good with it?
I feel like I am way too short for my weight, but other than that, I'm okay.
Okay.
So if I was taller, I'd be in the right weight category, but I'm not. So,
okay. You can actually change that, Greg, believe it or not. I didn't know about this until this came to my attention this week, that there is actually a surgery out there where short guys who are 5'3", they can get up to 5'6". And it's a really weird way of how they do it.
Yeah.
Have you looked this up? Have you known about this?
I saw I saw a story, I think on Instagram or something like that.
Yeah.
And I hear it's like super painful and
Yeah.
super invasive.
Yeah. So buckle in, people. So this is what they actually do. Okay. They, okay. They break your bone, like your femur. Okay.
Yeah.
They
Like
break it.
your leg bones. Yep.
Right. And they insert, or they drill a hole into the femur. They slip something into the hole, and then they connect it with this thing that they're putting in. So if you want to picture two bones, they drill a hole in there to slide something in, and they reconnect it. And then you go to the doctor's visit, and he kind of just goes, he hooks you up to some machine where
Stretches you, isn't it?
huh?
Think it stretches you?
It it's something where these vibrations, or he hits a button, and this thing slowly, like, just pull, like, it'll automatically pull it apart, like, I think by like centimeters.
Yeah.
And then their theory is, or it's actually proven, because of that empty space, the bone marrow will,
Right. Connect.
like,
And then over time.
connect that over time. So we're talking, I think we're talking about a year. You can, like, change your height in, like, by inches,
Yeah.
by like 3 inches. Like, that's wild. Like, he goes, now I've seen videos of these people before and after, and it actually works, but they look weird when they run, man. It's
Yeah.
not the same anymore.
Yeah. I mean, because
You're not going to be an athlete.
your skeletal structure, like
Yeah.
for your height, and yes, you may have a long torso or you may have longer legs.
Right.
I mean, those natural kind of things. But if you're unnaturally just lengthening your legs,
Yeah.
that's weird, man.
Yeah.
That's
I'm a big believer. Look, I'm not a fan of, okay, and I'm not trying to offend anybody here. Your choice is your choice. I'm just saying, speaking from my point of, or just the way I feel, and I think I'm very old school about this. I believe you got what God gave you, and
Yeah.
you should be happy with it. And what I mean by that is, look, either when it comes to hair loss or it comes to graying faster, those are the small things I'm talking about. When it also, but anybody that wants to augment themselves because they think that whatever they get's going to make, now my life is going to get on track because I'm 2 inches taller, and
right.
now my life is going to get on track because now women find me attractive because I have a full head of hair. I don't see that. But
Yep.
I'm coming a little insensitive about it, because I think because I believe that I don't feel a certain way, or I get over very fast certain
Right.
things. Like, when I started getting gray, it bothered me maybe 5 seconds. Like, I didn't
Right.
really care that much. Now,
Mhm.
I have called you before when our lovely hairstylist Tina told me that,
Yep.
hey, dude, you're balding in about 10 years. In about 10 years, that might be all gone up top. That shook me a little bit.
Mhm.
Not
Yeah.
gonna lie. Not
Yep.
gonna lie. That shook me a little bit, but I'm good with it now. I'm over it now. I'm like, hey, if it happens, it happens, and I'll just focus on growing this thing all big and bushy and shave my head.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
I mean, you're right. I had a similar conversation with my son who's in biology right now, and he's like, Dad, did you know, like, their like genetic manipulation, like, in utero is real? Like, if you
Yeah.
want to pay, you can, do the gene testing and then say, oh, hey, we found the gene for Parkinson's, and we
Yeah.
can take that out and replace it. He's like, would you do that? And I'm like, oh.
That's a tough one.
I said, maybe. I mean, yeah, that is tough. I said, I guess, and I didn't say yes or no, but I'm like, I would really have to struggle with that, because that's something you take away. It's like, okay, so what if it's simply like the gene for baldness or good teeth, or,
Yeah.
full head of hair, blue eyes, whatever. It's
Right.
like, would you do that? I said, no, stuff like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mess with an embryo for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not something I would do. because that
But he
is,
brings up a good point when it comes
he
to a
does. He
disease
really
or
does.
yeah. That's a very interesting point to
Mhm.
talk about, because I think if I found out, like, look, man, if they told me that your daughter, we can take, she has a chance of getting this, we can change that, I
Yeah.
would probably do it.
Yeah.
I probably
And,
would.
and I can't say I wouldn't either. I mean, and that's, you go down a real slippery slope at that point
Yeah.
of if that was allowed to do that. And he says he's like, well, it's illegal, like worldwide, it's illegal. I'm like, but if we know how to do it, I bet you somebody's doing
It's getting done.
it. I mean, that's like
Yes. Yes.
when people talk about, well, human cloning's illegal. I'm like,
Oh yeah.
but the fact that we know how to do it,
There's a probably a couple of clones hanging out in China somewhere.
yeah, yeah,
I'm sure.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, it's a big conversation, but if it's
Mhm.
just like, hey, we're going to do surgery to make you taller, if your psyche is so damaged
Yeah.
that 3 inches of height is going to fix that, you don't need surgery to make you taller. You need psychological counseling. Like you need help.
Yeah. And I would agree with that.
Yep.
I don't, it's just that I didn't think they could ever do this. I really didn't. And the way that they showed it, because I looked it up, and the way they showed it, I was like, oh my God, this actually works. But again, they're a little off, which you would
Yeah.
be. Your
You
body structure
totally would be.
Yes.
And there's a piece of me that's like, I mean, how many millions of dollars went
Yeah.
into this research and development when there could have been millions of dollars going into other things like
Agreed.
cancer
Now,
research?
actually, it's funny. I actually wish, there are times I wish I was smaller. Believe
Yeah,
it or not.
me too.
There are times
Yeah.
I always thought that, like, 6'1" would be good. 6'1", it's good.
Yeah. I can't fit in most sports cars, like those high end sports cars.
Yeah.
People are like, wouldn't it be fun to go out to Vegas and like rent some of these like supercars and go drive them? I'm like, yeah, homie, don't fit. I mean,
Did you just say
like,
homie don't fit?
I did. Um, because that was my actual response to the guy that asked me. I'm like, yeah, I don't fit. I don't fit in those cars.
Homie don't fit. Yeah.
That's
So
why
let me
that's
throw-
when I love pictures of The Rock standing next to like, these
sports cars. Yeah.
Maseratis and Lamborghinis.
That's probably,
like,
it has to be custom made.
if he actually, I mean, it's always a picture of him standing next to it.
What is
There's
he,
never
6'5"?
yeah, he's like 6'5", 6'6".
260.
There's never a picture of him in the car. Whenever you see him driving something in a movie, it's like a truck
Yeah, that's true.
or
Well,
something
I think
like
I think he's creating his own little stereotype.
Oh, he certainly has. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like The Rock doesn't drive regular cars.
No.
Well,
drives
didn't he
trucks.
get out of like nice cars and Ballers?
Yeah, like getting out of them,
Yeah.
and that the camera shot is him standing up,
Okay,
not him,
all right.
not him opening a door,
Yeah,
undoing
yeah,
a seatbelt, and
okay.
getting out of the car. He was
Yeah.
never fully in the car.
Okay.
In fact, my one interaction with The Rock on Instagram was he had a picture from Ballers on the set, and I literally said in there, "There's no way you fit in that thing." And he responded to my comment. He's like, "Yeah, no way I did."
Wait, for real?
He did.
Responded
Yeah.
back to you?
Yeah. I mean,
How'd that make you feel?
oh, I was like, guys, look,
Yeah.
Rock responded to my comment. They're
Yeah,
like, how many comments were there?
that's kinda-
450,000, and I happen to be the third one.
Yeah.
But that's why. Anyway, yeah, he doesn't fit in those cars.
yeah. It's
Not
funny.
without severely customizing it.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, people, if that surgery was free, I'll just throw this out here. Anyone that you would like to change, like, we'll throw out, help me out, Greg, because I think what your son came up with was really good. Like, you know what? I would actually, if the doctor came up to me and said, like, hey, there's this alcoholic gene that you carry that you gave to her, would you like that out? I would say, yep, take that right out of there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I would do that. So I guess anything negative, I would be like, yeah, take that out.
Yeah. That's still a slippery slope. I really think it is. I think because then
Where do you stop?
where do you stop?
Not only that, I would think you have two people. you have two people um that
I
have
mean,
that have a say in
yeah.
that embryo. Like you
I
have,
mean, you do absolutely, but I mean, like, you can't see it because of the beard, but I got like a mole right here. Always had
yeah,
it, or I got one actually right on the tip of my nose. If someone were to say, "Hey, you know what? We could genetically modify your kids so that they never get those," what they'd be like, "Oh, give them perfect skin, sure." Pure vanity thing.
yeah, that is a
But at the
vanity
same
thing.
time, people like, what if that were to turn into like a
Right.
cancer thing?
Yeah. No,
And
you're
so
absolutely right.
you can go down that road and be like, "Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's give them perfect skin." I mean,
Yeah.
and yeah. So anyway,
Yeah, you're right. No, it's like sitting at a car dealership and they're like, "Hey, you want this? This is really cool." And you're like, "Yeah."
yeah,
Well, then if you have this, you do know you need this to go with this. Oh, okay. Let's do
yeah.
that too. Yeah. So yeah, it's a good point. So a slippery slope, fellas.
Mm-hmm.
And ladies, would you do that? Would
What'd you
you,
do?
if you had the opportunity to change an embryo or go through painful surgery to make yourself taller or shorter? I guess they could
Yeah,
do that.
sure. Just
Would you
take
do
bone
it?
out, I guess.
Yeah, would you do it? Or, I'm sure people would like some sort of modifications. Um,
Yeah,
where's
everybody's
your
gonna go
line?
sure.
Where's your line on modifications? Let me put it that way. So,
So,
yeah.
something that isn't on the docket, but I still kind of want to talk about here, and it's a bit of a tragedy. Did you hear about this Alec Baldwin situation?
Yes, I'm glad you want to talk about that because I did want to talk about that.
So, Alec Baldwin was on a film of it's a western that he's filming down in New Mexico, I think,
Okay.
called Rust,
Mhm.
and he was doing a scene where I think he was firing a pistol, old revolver type pistol, straight at the camera for the shot,
Mhm.
and there was like this plexiglass piece set up to protect the director and the director of photography and the film director. And within Alec Baldwin's gun, and this has been a developing story, was a one live round. Like some people thought it was because all those guns are made to fire blanks, and a blank is just it's the same as a regular round, as a regular bullet, but with no projectile piece coming out. It's still
Right.
like a powder load. And sometimes things can get lodged in there. Sometimes they call it a wad, or like something could get in there that if it's fired at a close range, it could still act like a projectile and kill somebody. That's what happened to Brandon Lee on the set of The Crow back in the 90s.
It also happened
Um,
to a gentleman. Do you remember that show, The Voyagers, in the 80s, where that one kid and there was a one guy who was a time traveler. He happened to find the kid, but he lost his book that gets him through time. But the kid was
mm,
super smart
yeah.
with
Okay.
history. The lead character, he was actually very popular in the 80s, and he got shot in a blank making a movie and he died.
Yeah.
I forgot his
So,
name. Yeah, so it's
so
happened.
originally that they thought that could have been the cause, but then when the investigation, they found out no, there was a live round, and it killed this 42-year-old director, Helena Hutchins, who's 42, mother of three, I
Yeah.
believe. I mean,
Yeah.
just tragic, super talented too, from what I understand. Um, and injured the director. I mean, I think he's going to be okay, but he was still in the hospital last time I checked. But yeah, they found it was this bullet, and the other kicker is that the staff had complained about, hey, we're working 17-hour days. This is,
Yeah.
you know,
Unsafe work
it's
conditions.
the same conditions that a large, this one large union in Hollywood actually posed a strike. Now they were still filming, so I'm figuring it wasn't the same organization. Um, but just talking about, hey, we're working 17-hour days. Guys are they're not sleeping. They're hungry because they don't have time to eat. All these things, and then mistakes were made. And
Well,
the other piece that I'm hearing is why in the hell was there a live round on set?
yeah, I got more than that.
Yeah.
That prop gun misfired 3 times during that entire production,
Oh, really?
and they still used it. So,
Oh,
one real quick thing I want to shout out here before I go into more stuff I knew about this. The last person on the face of this earth, guys, leave Alec Baldwin alone. He
yeah.
didn't know.
He didn't do anything. Yeah.
Okay. He's an actor whose job is you're supposed to do this at the camera and action. Like he
Yep.
was given the gun. Now, if you think an actor should have sat there and looked at the gun, investigated a gun, I think you're giving actors way too much credit.
Right.
Okay. They're not going to do that. They've already believed that it's passed through about probably 7 people's hands and inspections, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
And so everybody that wants Alec Baldwin to face charges and all this stuff,
No.
guy's innocent. He was just
That's a tragedy for
yeah,
him. And I would bet that he's going to have a hard time
firing
moving
a gun
forward from
ever.
this. Yeah, like
Yeah,
moving forward
absolutely.
from
He
this.
actually killed somebody and he
Yeah.
didn't know. Like that's horrible.
So
But more
go ahead.
about this before you go. The people that you were talking about that were in really bad conditions, they were complaining, and whoever's in charge of that gathered them all up and let them go. Brought in non-union people to finish it.
Okay. Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah. And so it was a really bad set. It was a really bad thing that was going on there. And this is what happens, man. So,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of mistakes were made by a lot of untrained people because the people that they were just grinding were dismissed.
So I'm reading up.
Yeah.
Um, in a statement to Associated Press by crew member Maggie Goll, Goll, she filed an internal complaint with the executive producers of Hulu's Into the Dark series in 2019 over concerns of assistant director David Hall's behavior on set.
Uh-oh.
Goll said in an email on Sunday that Hall's disregard for safety protocols for weapons and pyrotechnics and tried to continue the film after a crew member had slipped into a diabetic fugue state, which is when your blood sugar gets super low and you're just out of it.
And so what? He just kept pushing the person to keep.
Yep. He did not maintain a safe work environment. Gold told the NBC News sets were almost always allowed to become increasingly claustrophobic. No established fire lanes, exit blockings, safety meetings were non-existent.
Whoa.
So this assistant director, and that's what I've heard, is that this was not a safe set. Like they were,
for sure.
People were complaining, including Alec Baldwin, saying like, this isn't right. You know, they're pushing these set builders and electricians and all. They're pushing people way too hard.
Yeah.
And then this accident happened. So
yeah, if anybody wants to point a finger at Alec Baldwin, that's about the only place you could put it at. Is a guy of his stature could have sat there and said, I'm not coming on set until this guy is gone because he does this. That's the only thing that dude's what's the word? That's the only thing you could probably point a finger at Alec Baldwin about, is that he could have used his star status a little bit more in terms of that. Other than that, leave the guy alone.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's pieces to it. So yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Get back to my.
So that's pretty. That's pretty.
So that
sad.
was terrible. Yeah, that's tough. I'm gonna. It's gonna be interesting to see if that event changes the film industry. So
yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Going off on a different topic, I'm kind of watching over here. I got my eye every now and then that goes over there because I'm watching San Francisco versus Indianapolis.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. I was told, I need you to look this up for me. Google this. I was told that you can get paid by the city of San Francisco 6 figures to pick up human excrement all over the city. It's gotten that bad. I need to see if that's true because I might move to San Francisco. I mean, look, I pick up a little girl's poop and I pick up my dog's poop. It's nothing new to me. In fact, no one ever warns you of how much poop you're going to actually deal with when you become a parent.
Yeah. Let's see. Google kind of predicted it for me. San Francisco has established a poop patrol in order to combat the rising tide of human feces flooding its streets. According to the San Francisco Chronicle, this was published in August 24th, 2018. San Francisco Chronicle also reported that members of the patrol would make an annual base salary of $71,760 to $184,678 if you include mandated benefits. So My only piece to that. So yes, it's true. You can make up to 184 grand a year doing that job. Now, you're not going to find a house in San Francisco.
Oh, you got to go about an hour out
for less than 3 million.
Yeah, you got to go out of San Francisco itself.
Yep.
Wow. Imagine
still,
that, people.
Still, but like,
can you? Okay, just real quick. Can you think of any other job where you would make that much doing something that simple?
No.
I mean, seriously, let's think about this for a second. Is there anything out there that I'm not aware of or that we are not aware of where all you're doing is basically doing what you would normally do if you're a parent or you're a pet owner?
You know it's different. I mean,
it's bigger.
Your kid's poop is one thing, homeless poop is, I'm guessing, something else.
I don't think it's just homeless.
Oh, you think people are just driving around no matter what?
I've heard that they have a horrible problem. And I
have heard that like joggers, like there's people that'd be out jogging and they're like, oh, gotta poop.
Yeah, they'll just take a shit on the street. I can't believe I've heard this. And I'm like, no, you're over exaggerating. No, it's for real.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I loved San Francisco when I went there. There was never an issue with that. I heard that issue started like a year after we visited. So
yeah, I've never been. I along the same lines, I remember reading when I was still teaching and looking up kind of like along the dirty jobs line, what's the worst high paying job you can have. And it's at a wastewater treatment plant. So if you use a toilet, it's where it goes. Like once a year, I think they said there's got to be someone that puts on this watertight scuba gear and goes into one of these holding tanks and just scrapes off the screens that are on, like down in like the pump room, where it gets clogged with stuff.
So you're swimming in a cesspool of human excrement.
You're swimming in shit. Yes.
And piss.
Yeah, all of it. I mean, all of it. There's probably water in there too.
There's probably worse stuff too.
But you're in there just cleaning out these screens.
Oh my God.
For people that flush things that aren't supposed to be flushed, and then also just the stuff that gets stuck in there. Jesus Christ. And they interviewed this guy. I remember watching. I think it wasn't a Dirty Jobs episode. I don't think it was like something else like Discovery, but it was like, hey, we're about to show you some gross stuff. If you can't take it, change the channel kind of thing.
And you were like, I'm in, let's go.
Yeah. And I'm like, I could do this. And I'm literally watching it and it was fine. They mounted a camera on the guy's gear and he had said, yeah, it's terrible. Like getting in and out is the worst because like when he's down in there
doing the job,
it's just like brown water is what it looked like.
Yeah.
But when you'd see him surface, because all the floaters more or less, there was about 6 inches or maybe a foot of just top sludge.
Oh God, that reminds me of, remember Rambo where they had him sitting in
pig shit? Yeah.
It
was, but it was brown, and he's like, that's the worst part. He's like, honestly, but he gets in, he does the job. He gets out. There's guys immediately at the ladder, like as he's rising out of it, they're hitting him with hoses, just like hosing him down. Yeah, as he comes out. And I'm like, Jesus. He's like, it's a psychological thing. He's like, is really what it is. You got to get past that. But when they said his annual salary, I'm like, do you do that? And then they said, this isn't an everyday thing. But he does.
Yeah.
But he's the guy that's trained to do it. Like he went through the special training and he's got to keep up. He's got to keep up his scuba license.
This is the best part of this, the training. So how many mistakes were made in that training? So the guy that had to write the book on this, because he had to experience first and make the mistakes.
Yep. And these holding tanks
probably not around anymore.
His holding tanks are huge. And when I say he has to keep a scuba license, this isn't like going out to the islands with your and then it's not that. He's got like the abyss style where it locks into place and you can like see his full face and stuff like that, and he can talk and move around. And
so it's like a high tech.
Yeah, it's that kind of scuba
thing.
suit. Yes, it is a high tech diving gear, like that the Navy would use, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So he's like, so like when they had the camera, I mean, that's what he sees is this kind of slush or this sludge that he's got to get through. But yeah,
I'm imagining resurfacing, right? And you might have to like go like
dig out of it a little bit.
Yeah.
They didn't show that part. They just showed him like coming up out of the ladder. And yeah, he had particulates.
There's somebody on TikTok that he keeps filming his wife, and I guess if he makes the sound, she actually starts
gagging.
Can't control it. She actually starts gagging. I saw
a guy do that where he's like, "Hey, what's up with that wasp?" And he's like, she's like, "Oh, that's a really bad one." Yeah, I heard they're making sounds like, and she's like, just
yeah. Hopefully she's not listening to this podcast because she's doing it in her car right now.
Yep, just lost a fan.
Yeah, just lost a fan. I think we're good.
Yep, on that note.
Yeah, I think we'll end on that note. I do want to say congratulations to the Struleys. They happen to have a new member of the family. So they got a new dog named Princess Leia. So I'm guessing she just goes by Leia.
Well, she goes by Leia. Yep. She's with us.
Very cool. Very cool. New dogs are always fun. And then that wears off.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it there.
Yep.
So, see if we can. All right, man. Sign us out.
All right. Well, as you're doing your research this week on vaccinations or poop scrubbers, know your sources. Know where you're getting that information from. Make sure it is a credible source. I mean, if there are sources that object to that, read them both. Make an informed decision. Get both sides of the story, or maybe even a third side of the story if there is one. So get that. So check your sources. Know your audience. If you're going to spread that information around, know who you're talking to, and then try to phrase it in a way that they can understand, and do it without being mean or anything like that. Which leads us to our next point: is that if you're going throughout your week and you're doing those things, don't be a douche.
Boom. So for the Greg, this is Johnny. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Podcast out, people. Have a great day.
See you later.